I am, sorry, it's a little bit of gymnastics here. I am based in New York, and the reason why I was asked to moderate a panel on SAARC countries is because my colleague Jean Enriquez, who is with CATW Asia Pacific, was denied entry into India for lack of visa. So she sends her sincere regrets, and I'm sad not to see her. Just briefly, CATW Asia Pacific, like the rest of CATW, is an abolitionist organization, works on trafficking in women and girls, and ending commercial sexual exploitation and the sex trade, including prostitution. And in the Philippines, Jean in particular, who is the executive director, works a lot in areas that have been hit by natural disasters. There have been 2 major typhoons in the Philippines in the last 2 years that has increased the extreme vulnerability of women and girls to trafficking. So we work on prevention. We work with men and boys to change harmful masculinity. So it's a great honor to introduce this illustrious panel. This is a conversation about the patterns of trafficking from one Asian country to another. As we know, the patterns of trafficking are complex, and but with every complexity, there are always solutions that governments can help us solve. And so I hope that all of you will also talk about political will or lack of political will of governments. So we are, this panel will focus specifically on the dynamics and flows of trafficking for sexual exploitation from Nepal to India, Bangladesh to Pakistan, and India, and looking at countries of origin and transit. So without further ado, I will give the microphone to the illustrious Salma Ali of the Bangladesh National Women's Lawyers Association. Thank you, Salma.
Okay. Thank you. First, I like to thank the organizer, specific the issue. We have been working long time. I am very delighted to see all my friends who have been working a long time in regional level and international level, and specific the PN Nair, Roma, and Ruchita and coalition, member of coalition and other issue. Since yesterday we have been talking regarding the issue of victims, have been giving lot of issue, and I don't want to make more regarding the background of the women and children forced into prostitution. I just, as a lawyer, as a human rights activist, we think the member of BNWLA, it is our social and professional responsibility to help women and children in need. That's why we have been working not only the human trafficking, regarding the prevention also, domestic violence and other sexual harassment and other issue. And we always try to give legal issue using law for advocacy tool. That is one of the issue that it is help us to make advocacy and try to help pressure government to make policy and laws. And we know that we have many international instruments like CEDAW, CRC, optional protocol of CEDAW, and UN protocol for trafficking, prevention of trafficking, Palermo protocol, and other. But that is also help us to when we file any case in our court regarding this issue. And yesterday and today we heard regarding violence against women and children who are in prostitution, and regarding a lot of their rights, their abuse, sexually abuse, physical abuse, economic abuse, anything. And one of the issue is very important that regarding the eviction, and that is one of the issue and since long time, we also want decriminalization, but we don't want any law on the issue. So that's why this eviction also, they are civil rights, they are constitution rights, and basic rights is very important. So that's why my organization and other organization, first we filed a case regarding, and we got a judgment where we got that the issue that establish the right and residence of and rehabilitation of women and children in prostitution. And another case is repatriation is a fundamental rights, and then stop either eviction or any other social harassment. So it is a continuously we have been giving this type of support of women who are inside the in the red light area. But still there are this type of judgment help us to make a the advocacy for law. And then now in Bangladesh, though we are also in this issue also help for SAARC convention. I am one of the one from Bangladesh who are directly lobby all head of the state regarding the SAARC convention for prevention of trafficking, though it is narrow for only prostitution. And then it was also some of the activists in South Asia who help all relevant government in South Asia for drafting the SAARC convention prevention of trafficking. And then in 2012, even we are also lobbying CRC committee member and CEDAW committee member regarding the issue of human trafficking. We need a very comprehensive law for prevention of trafficking. Then concluding comments came from CEDAW and CRC several times regarding the issue of human trafficking, and then this advocacy helped to our government to make a very comprehensive law. The challenge is it is not implementing like any other country. And these in our law, there are issues like Comprehensive Prevention under Prevention, Suppression and Human Trafficking Act 2012, and this law, lot of judgment from India also and Nepal also helped to make this like a video conference issue. Prajula versus Government of Hyderabad video conference issue came, so that also we included, and especially the rescue mechanism, how to rescue children and women during the legal procedure during that rescue. That also came through Stop versus Government of Delhi and Perona versus Government of Maharashtra. So these things also came in our law, special issue, comprehensive provision for rescue, repatriation and rehabilitation, and then burden of proof upon the accused, victim and witness protection, a comprehensive victim and witness separate investigation department, evidence record in the electric devices, compensation issue. So these things came through our in our law. But same type of, we need a comprehensive and same type of law in source and destination country. After the SAARC convention, we also make lobby for making a monitoring cell under Home Ministry. That was one of the issue that now in Bangladesh we have a very comprehensive monitoring cell under Home Ministry where all relevant ministry are directly working, and every month we sit together and we try to monitor the cases. And you know that now there are other issue already came in our through SAARC convention, like a RRI process, rescue, repatriation, and rescue and rehabilitation mechanism, and there is a bilateral MOU between government of Bangladesh and India regarding this issue. And specific, we, the NGOs, are working with the help of government to help. We have been giving the legal support and other support, and the video conference also going on with India and Bangladesh, and a rescue mechanism also we started to work. And during that time, Dr. P.N. Nair also one of the activists. He also helped us for making all this, and he also several times came to Bangladesh regarding this issue as a advisor, as a activist police officer. So this is also one of the issues very important. But there are a lot of challenges in our victim protection regarding the access to justice. If we tell the access to justice, what do we mean? Actually, it means that victims at the center need to ensure victims in the subject rather than object of the justice. So this is very important. A cross-border referral mechanism existing, but need more speedy, and that is also one of the issue is very important. And still we said that we have a very good law, but it is not implemented properly. The whole morning yesterday we heard the corruption and the other issue, and similar in South Asia, the judicial is very it takes time and there is no commitment, and this issue is very not enough time to make. And now we have a lot of we have a monitoring cell, what I said, and task force on the issue, and SOP and case management mechanism. That's these things I am talking. These are the good practices. Because we have been working, we are learning from yesterday that lot of things. But what we did, we have a many product that we can use. We have a very good practices also that also replicate in other country, and even in Bangladesh, one-stop crisis center inside the medical college, you will get all type of support. Victim support center in the police station, not only few, but where NGO and GOs are working together. So these things are going on in Bangladesh, but we, as a source country, there is a demand between source and destination country. And victim there are a lot of issue like child marriage and other issue also need to address. And just I want to say there is a regional mechanism is going regarding the SAARC, South Asian Initiative Violence Against Children. That is one of the apex body of SAARC, who are now working with NGOs in South Asia on the issue of child marriage, prevention child marriage, child trafficking, sexual abuse, and other issue. That is also good practices. And NGO also, ATSEC and other NGO are also, there are network, but need more comprehensive program on the issue of prevention. And there is demand, and that's why supply, and the vulnerability is one of the issue is very important. And there are lot of recommendations, but I have not enough time. So when our question answered, then I will give the answer.
Thank you, Salma. Salma is very modest. For decades, we have been following her work. She is a giant in the legal advocacy world, and just wanted to thank you for your groundbreaking work and for making the law such an incredible tool for governments to protect women and girls. Our next speaker is Bishwo Ram Khadka, the director of Maiti Nepal in Nepal. So thank you, Bishwo.
Thank you for this opportunity, distinguished panelists, and all the participants. Greetings from Maiti, Nepal. I have a small presentation on the human trafficking and SAARC regional dynamics and challenges. That was the topics given to us. So I think we all are aware the fact that the scenario of trafficking, it's a global phenomenon. It's not a new thing for all of us. But if you look at the SAARC scenario, it is increasing. Trafficking of women and children in different forms and manifestations are increasing. The estimated numbers, there are different numbers, varies, different research, different reports says different numbers. And also another alarming fact is that child sex tourism. ECPAT International has just recently conducted a report on travel and tourism, sexual exploitation of children in travel and tourism sect, which reveals very alarming number of children are being abused sexually, commercially. And these things are not, there are so many organizations working, but least explored, this commercial exploitation is least explored issue in our region. What are the trafficking scenario in Nepal? We believe that as it is underground criminal business, we don't have a realistic data, but there we follow some data that ILO and other organizations has carried out in 2001, which says more than 12,000 girls and women and girls are trafficked from Nepal to India and Gulf countries, which we believe that more than 20% of them are children. And we have a latest report by National Human Rights Commission of Nepal, which claims that in 2 years' time, there are 16,000 people are trafficked from Nepal to India and Middle East. And also, as I said earlier, the manifestations of trafficking has changed. So now we don't have red light area in Nepal, but we do have different entertainment business in the name of dance, or cabin, or beer bars. There are more than 50,000 girls are employed who are very, very vulnerable to commercial sexual exploitation. This is a report by Free the Slave in 2009. What are the push factors? As we all know, working in this field for many years, that push factors of being gender discrimination, lack of education and awareness, unemployment, open border. Most in our cases like Nepal, we have more than 1,700 kilometer long open border with India. Gender-based violence, and we support different forms of discrimination, as we are talking about this morning, scheduled caste, low caste, Janajati, Adivasi. So these are the very, very much vulnerable group. And definitely political instability in terms of Nepal. We do have, in 24 years, we have 23 government in place. So because of this, we don't have a proper policy in place. And weak implementation of existing laws, whatever we have. We believe that we have a very strong law against human trafficking, but sometimes it is very difficult to implement and get justice to the victims. What are the changing dimensions? And this is another biggest challenge for all of us working in this field, that according to ECPAT International, that now children are becoming more exposed by this child sex tourism. Nepal is being a safe hideout because we don't have proper policy and laws, legal instrument in place to curb this. Recently, CIB, Central Information Bureau of Police, has grabbed the very notorious pedophiles from Nepal. So this shows the number of people who travel to Nepal for a sexual purpose, not for tourism. And because of migration, that people definitely would like to see the opportunity and earn money, and they love to migrate. But the agents, they always make them a trap, and they sell them and they abuse them. This is another form. Also change the country of origin to now into transit and destination, because many Indian girl and Sri Lankan girl and Bhutani girl being brought to Nepal in Tribhuvan International Airport, and that airport being made as a transit, and they are flown from that airport to other destination country like in the Middle East. Women are now sold off for various purposes, organ and kidney transplant, bone marrow, kidney, retina, surrogacy, including breastfeeding. This is what now new trend for being trafficking is taking place. Another phenomenon, trafficking of girls in South Korea, as like a marriage. We do have, I think in Nepal we do have more than 80 marriage bureau registered who organize a marriage between Nepali girls and Chinese and Koreans. And in that name of the marriage, many young girls are abused and trafficked. migration and trafficking is very close link. It has a nexus. So in the name of migration, unsafe migration leads to trafficking. There are so many cases, incidents that Nepal is having and Nepali girls are facing. Recently, Maiti Nepal operates almost in 12 border points, checkpoints between Nepal and India, and we monitor, along with the police, we facilitate and provide information to the vulnerable travelers to Nepal, to India or Middle East, and we prevent and intercept more than 5,000 girls being trafficked from Nepal to India or other countries every year. So what we did is in 5 locations, we have information booth. Out of that 5 locations, we collected the information, we analyzed the data, which shows that more than 8,310 people were migrants, and out of that 10% were below age of 18. So even, I'll show you the case, even the girl who is 15 years of age, her passport is made in the passport be saying 21 years. So this is a big racket and a big network of people of trafficking here. Sensitized more than 23,000 in this 5 locations. Also sensitized 15,548 people safe migration through the text message. We do use text message to those potential migrant workers to be safe, how they can be safe. So this is a photograph. You can see a lady holding a passport, somebody else's passport. And she traveled from Indira Gandhi Airport to Sri Lanka, Colombo. Nobody checked. If you get into the IGI, how difficult you have to go through so many security channels. First, you show your ID, you show your ticket, and then airlines counter, you go immigration. This lady, she is from Assam, though she is Nepali origin. She had a passport of this girl whose name is Maiya, something, Vishwakarma, from Nepal. She went. Luckily, we were able to rescue her. But unfortunately, this girl had to suffer in a jail violating immigration law in Nepal. We were able to bring her back from Sri Lanka, but she had to pay some compensation and serve the jail term for some times. Similarly, you can see this girl, which I was mentioning. She was just 15 years of age. Her passport was made saying she is 21 years. So our staff and immigration office in Kathmandu stopped her being trafficked from the airport. So what are the challenges that we face to curb this problem is how you perceive. We are a patriarchal society. The policymakers, politicians, they always have this kind of mindset, and they don't look at differently. So gender discrimination and patriarchal society is one major challenge we see. Lack of coordination amongst the stakeholder, intergovernmental mechanism. We do have a 5 ministry working in the same field, but they don't have any coordination. I think every South Asian countries or worldwide, this is the same phenomena that maybe we have our education ministry, health ministry, women ministry, ministry of home affairs, external affairs, but they have own program, but they never coordinate to each other, and they spend a lot of resources, but output is zero. Similarly, regional instrument, we do have a SAARC convention in place, which is, I think, it's not working or not in favor of the survivors. And this does not cover the different manifestations of trafficking. It just says prostitution. I think prostitution only is not trafficking nowadays. Definition of trafficking has been widened already. So I think this is also one of the challenges that how we are going to change this thing. Yeah. What are the recommendations that we could do is that SAARC convention has, almost I said it's useless. So we need to modify this. Otherwise you cannot say this is a convention and we cannot address the problem. And it does not encompasses all forms of human trafficking comprehensively. So it has to include all other aspects of the trafficking and abuse. Provision for victims' protection and their rehabilitation should be included. Migration and labor policies in South Asia must be developed because now government of Nepal has almost decided that even Nepalese coming to work in India has to have some kind of permission. Which is, I think, I don't know politically how it works, but it is, there are a large number of Nepali women and girls are working in Nepal, in India, with undocumented, and they are suffering with many, many problems. That Maiti Nepal also works with organizations in India like Rescue Foundation, STOP, and also we have a small, our contact office called Maiti India, and then we have so many cases of domestic problem that Nepali women are facing in India. Bilateral labor agreements and policies and plans. Also, that I think we do have this sustainable development goal, where I think we should also consider adopt these things and empowering women and giving the opportunity to the women. So, lastly, just to let my friends, colleagues who do not know how Nepal looks like, this is a map of Nepal. And we operate in different parts of the country. And we rescued more than 36,000 girls, convicted more than 1,571 traffickers. Mediation, we do legal aid services, we do rehabilitation. I think we are Maiti Nepal has the largest rehabilitation service to the girls and women in Nepal. We have more than 12 transit homes, 3 prevention homes, and 2 rehabilitation homes. Also, we provide services to the HIV positive people with antiretroviral medicines, and then definitely job and rehabilitation to these survivors. So we request all the friends to join hands to fight against this crime and make a better society. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bishwo, and also thank you, Maiti Nepal, for their extraordinary work and leadership in the region and around the world. 36,000 girls and young women rescued. I mean, one has to wonder, like, the demand for that number of girls. That's what we have to keep in mind, and it's probably just a fraction of all the girls who have either perished or who are suffering or at risk. So thank you. So while we're having a little technical difficulties. So if Mr. Kapinos, Mr. Sergei Kapinos, if you could present, we'd be honored. Mr. Kapinos is the representative of UNODC, the regional office for South Asia. Oh, you're also presenting? Oh, yes, you can stay. Thank you.
Dear organizers of the Congress, dear colleagues, partners, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great privilege to be here. I'd like to thank the distinguished speakers for their valuable contribution to this session. Just for the benefit of all those who have not heard about maybe UNODC, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime is a global leader in the fight against transnational organized crime. Okay. Can you hear? Okay, good. Okay. So the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime is a global leader in the fight against transnational organized crime. Oh, nearer, even nearer. Okay. Like this? What about now? Can you hear? Okay, good. Thank you. It's an excellent feedback. Okay. So the leader, the global leader, UNODC, in terms of fighting transnational organized crime, of which human trafficking is the most grave. The challenge of all countries, rich and poor, is to target the criminals who exploit desperate people and to protect and assist victims of trafficking, many of whom endure unimaginable hardships in their bid for a better life. Human trafficking is a threat to the rule of law, with profits amounting, just mind please, $32 billion per year. $32 billion per year. So this is a very big, gigantic, transnational organized crime mechanism. UNODC works in South Asia to promote the rule of law, because without the rule of law, there can be no sustainable development, no human security, no justice, and no human rights. UNODC works in South Asia to assist countries in generating evidence and research, to help the countries of the region in ratification and implementation of the United Nations Convention on Transnational Organized Crime and the Trafficking Persons Protocol. Legislative assistance, build capacities of law enforcement and criminal justice actors, strengthen protection mechanisms and victim support, promote regional and international cooperation, and most of all, mutual legal assistance and extradition. Promote and establish mechanisms for information sharing between countries and increase awareness on human trafficking. UNODC's latest global report on trafficking in persons identifies more than 500 different trafficking flows around the world between 2012 and 2014. Trafficking for sexual exploitation and forced labor are the most prominently detected forms. The majority of victims detected in 85 countries are reported to be females, comprising about 70% of the total number of detected victims. Children remain the second most commonly detected group of victims of trafficking globally. So, in a nutshell, the overall percentage of these two groups may exceed 85% or even 90%. The reality of South Asia in many instances is open and porous borders. This region comprises socioeconomic inequalities and intense internal migration flows. There are no accurate figures, unfortunately, on the number of people being trafficked from and within South Asia, but it is reported that about 88% of the detected victims were trafficked domestically. Many persons are sold into forced marriages and bonded labor, working in middle-class homes as domestic workers, in small shops and hotels, or confined to brothels where they are repeatedly raped. With increasing access to information technology and changing nature of our globalized economy, new threats for children are imagined. Sex stories, it was mentioned, child pornography, online threats to children, among others. In many countries, trafficked women find themselves behind bars, having been convicted of crimes against public morality, prostitution, or breaking immigration rules, although they themselves are the victims of poverty. Sorry? I'm applauding you. Thank you. False promises, coercion, and exploitation. Generally, from extremely impoverished backgrounds, unaware of their legal rights and vulnerable to abuse, migrant female domestic workers are particularly vulnerable and may be imprisoned for offenses including prostitution. Whether prostitution is legal or not, states should not prosecute persons for being trafficked into sexual exploitation, even if the person originally agreed to work in the sex industry. In order to avoid living from behind, these and other specific needs and realities of women in conflict with the criminal justice system should be taken into account and addressed. UNODC upholds the human rights and dignity of every human being. Some of the challenges in South Asia remain. These are re-trafficking of victims, lack of awareness about trafficking in persons at borders, insufficient knowledge and skills among border control law enforcement officers to identify victims of trafficking, and lack of shelters at borders, and not only. The main challenge here is also lack of a will to cooperate, either bilaterally or regionally, between some SAARC member states. Efforts have been made by us to counter trafficking in persons for the past few years, but this is not enough. To address these challenges comprehensively with SAARC countries, we can all benefit from reinforcing regional cooperation and strengthening mechanisms for sharing of information, experience, expertise, and good practices. UNODC is committed to address human trafficking and sexual exploitation through the application of 4 Ps. These are protection, prosecution, prevention, and partnership. But this will not be possible without your support. To summarize my appeal, first of all, in order to cope with this humongous problem, all the countries involved should recognize this problem. Unfortunately, not even in South Asia, not every government has recognized it as a tremendous challenge and problem to their nations. Then public awareness. Without public awareness, it's absolutely impossible to cope with this problem. Public awareness is in turn not possible without active participation and coverage by the mass media. So mass media should be involved in a big way. And public on this conjunction of public awareness and involvement of mass media, civic activism should be really very high on scale. And I should also mention trust between population and law enforcement. Without this trust, also, the objective is not achievable. This trust can be built by making law enforcement responsive, accountable, effective, and last but not least, uncorrupt. And of course, adequate laws and implementation law mechanism should be in place. Without proper system of justice and independent, uncorrupt judiciary, this is also not achievable. And once again, last but not least, international cooperation. Once again, we are facing even not transnational, but global, transcontinental organized crime. Without international cooperation, without involving all stakeholders into this fight against the global mechanism, it's impossible to cope with this problem. Thank you for your attention.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very sorry. I thought it's a very difficult afternoon with so many speakers coming one after another, and I thought maybe I should begin with a small movie clip. Unfortunately, it's not working, and maybe I can share it later on. This is a very humbling experience for me to be in the presence of so many strong, dynamic, courageous, and beautiful souls. Thank you, Ruchira and Apni Aap, for making us a part of this gathering. I'd also like to congratulate Ruchira and Apni Aap for the 15 years of extraordinary work that you have done in the region, giving hopes to those who were lost in the dark abyss of life. I know there are some of you here who have not heard of our existence, of a country called Bhutan, and of an organization called Renew. So I'd like to begin with a very small introduction of my organization and the country I represent. Renew, Respect, Educate, Nurture, Empower Women, was established in 2004 by Her Majesty Sangye Choden Wangchuk. Since then, we have been providing services to survivors of domestic violence, gender-based violence, sexual abuse, and our work involves empowering women, children, and families. Bhutan is a very small country to the north of India of about 768,000 people, of which 48% are women. Trafficking is a very new concept in Bhutan, and it is considered to happen only across borders by the general public. The Constitution of the Kingdom of Bhutan provides protection for women and children particularly in Article 9 on the principles of state policy, which states, quote, that the state shall endeavor to take appropriate measures to eliminate all forms of discrimination and exploitation against women, including trafficking, prostitution, abuse, violence, harassment, and intimidation at work in both public and private spheres, unquote. Bhutan is party to CEDAW, the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. We are also party to the SAARC Convention on Prevention and Combating Trafficking and Women and Children in Prostitution, 2002. But that does not mean we have no problems in Bhutan. We have our own share. Data on trafficking is lacking in the country. It's very limited. However, it has now come to light that we are an emerging source and destination for trafficking, according to the Legal and Policy Review of Response to Human Trafficking in Bhutan by the UN Office. It has also become essential for us now to acknowledge that incidents of trafficking did arise on a few occasions, which seek interventions at the earliest possible. There has been reports on Bhutanese youth who travel abroad for overseas employment program, which could be classified under TIP. We are now trying to confirm stories of Bhutanese girls being prostituted in India. They had been legally brought to India through some employment agencies after being trained in the hospitality sector in the country for 3-4 months. And because they have exited the country legally by signing documents with the Ministry of Labor, it's very difficult to confirm whether these girls have been prostituted or not. Process has already begun to find out. The lack of information on trafficking has set off a notion that the crime is non-existent in the country. However, local media, Indian media actually, in 2015 suggested that Bhutan is an emerging source and destination for trafficking, which, although not true, kind of worried us and set into motion several national-level discussions and also resulted in a study by the UNODC office in 2015 and 16. A study on human trafficking situation in Bhutan states that all victims of trafficking reported so far came from poor families, which is not surprising. The report says lack of livelihood opportunities seem to play an important role, as this is used by traffickers to deceive potential victims with promises of good jobs. The first convicted case of cross-border trafficking was reported in June 2007, where police, along with the National Commission for Women and Children, rescued a 16-year-old Indian girl after complaints were received against the employers for mistreatment. She was brought into the country as a domestic maid. Now, in Bhutan, with the increasing empowerment and awareness of women, we see that many of the women are now well educated and have opportunities to make a career for themselves, which means that there is a need for domestic helpers. And the law in Bhutan states that all children must be compulsorily sent to Bhutan, which means it's very difficult to find a Bhutanese maid. So the easiest way is to bring an Indian girl from across the border. We share very porous borders with India, so it's very, very easy to bring in Indian girls. And that's where our concern lies now. The NCWC, the National Commission for Women and Children report, also states that in the past, several young Bhutanese girls have been enticed or kidnapped by foreign workers to be their brides, including the Saudi Arabic countries. All of them were taken by men to India and other countries, and thereafter their welfare was unknown. The report revealed that in 2007 and 2008, a total of 71 cases of missing of persons had been reported to the police in Bhutan. Of the 71 reported cases, 50 were found alive, 5 were found dead, and the status of 16 individuals are still unknown. The majority of the missing persons were in the age groups of 11 to 30 years, constituting 57.7% of those missing. Among those who were found, the most common reason for going missing was the inability to inform their relatives while journeying, and also elopement. Media houses in 2015 also reported that beauty parlors in Phinsiling, which is the main gateway to Bhutan by road, that beauty parlors in Phinsiling were found to offer commercial sex in the guise of providing massage services. Under sexual offenses, 3 Indian women aged 18, 20, and 26 were apprehended in Phinsiling for the offense of prostitution. In their statement to the police, they had revealed that they were brought from Kolkata by a woman who had promised them jobs in Bhutan. The woman who brought them to Bhutan was also Indian. Despite the dearth of data on trafficking, the report highlighted that trafficking for prostitution was common, if not rampant, in the border town of Phinsiling. Now, what are some of the growing concerns for us in Bhutan? The first is Bhutanese girls who work as domestic servants and entertainers in Drayungs. Drayung is a growing culture of dance clubs in the country and karaoke bars, that these women are subjected to sex and labor trafficking through deaths and threats of physical abuse. Currently, there are 41 Drayungs in Bhutan with 337 young girls as entertainers dancing in the clubs. We're trying hard to fight the government to shut down these clubs. Most of these girls come from rural Bhutan with the dreams of a glamorous urban life. Renew in 2016 alone had 17 young girls from Drayungs in Thimphu, the capital city alone, seeking help as a result of promised marriages. Some of the men just disappeared in thin air. We were not able to trace who the man was because the men gave these young girls false names, false identities. Their phones were switched off. These girls' mobiles were erased of all the pictures before the men left them. So there was no way of tracing down these men. And now we are providing shelter services and livelihood skills training program to these young girls. Different agencies have now come together to raise awareness among the girls as well as the club owners on their rights, responsibilities, and challenges. The second concern is there is a growing trend of children, irrespective of gender, becoming victims of sexual exploitation, according to the Violence Against Children study of 2016. The study reported that more than 1 to 10 children have experienced at least one incidence of sexual violence in their lifetime, with a slightly higher proportion of girls compared to boys. The most common type of sexual violence experience is sexual touching, with a much smaller proportion of both boys and girls having experienced forced sexual intercourse. Surprisingly, children who have experienced sexual violence are much more likely to have done so at school and to a lesser degree at home, and in public areas such as bars, discos, clubs, markets, restaurants, grazing areas, fields, etc. So this report has been quite alarming because usually we do not expect the children to be exploited at schools and other institutions, but the report reported it otherwise. Approximately 1 in 2 children, which is 48.4%, have experienced sexual harassment at least once in their lifetime, with prevalence rates slightly higher for boys. Yes, it's higher for boys than for girls in Bhutan. And in urban areas, which is 50.7% against 44.3% in rural areas. The third concern is our porous border with India in the three booming towns of Phinsiling, Samrup Dzongkhar, and Gelifo, where people can just move in and out of the borders. These towns could be haven for prostitution, considering the fluid movement of people across borders. In a study that I participated in 2015, several Indian women were found to be operating from hotels in Phinsiling. Their clients were both Indian and Bhutanese men, and these women had not availed any free services available for HIV counseling and free testing. These women came from far-flung villages of Assam, Darjeeling, Kokrajhar, Bihar, which saved them the risk of being exposed to their families and friends. Fourth, and a very recent concern is that in Bhutan we have free medical services all over the country for anyone in Bhutan. And we have some reported cases of Indian surrogate mothers who come to give birth in Bhutan. So that is a big concern for us, and we are still trying to figure out how do we stop this, because for Indians, they do not need visa to enter Bhutan. They have free access to all the services, just like any Bhutanese citizen do. I know that in Bhutan, our numbers are very small because we are a very small country. And we have just begun talking about growing concerns and gaps in policies, prevention, and prosecution, while our neighboring countries and sister organizations are grappling with enormous numbers and corrupt bureaucrats. The good thing is that we are very small. We can learn from the experiences of our sister agencies and the region, and we can draw lessons from these experiences and prepare ourselves to network with like-minded organizations in the region. We really look forward to collaborate with some experienced colleagues and organizations gathered here today. Thank you, the wonderful team of Apne Aap, Ruchira, Tinku, Jonita, and all the wonderful volunteers who have put together, who have worked really hard to make this event again. Thank you again, and have a good evening.
Thank you so much, Tandin. It's quite sad that a country like Bhutan now is seeing this rise. And I guess a question that I would have for all of you is the role of pornography in your work, seeing the increase of trafficking of women and children. So now it's a great pleasure to introduce Triveni Acharya, President, the Rescue Foundation of India.
So, big thank you to Apne Aap and CAPE for organizing such a wonderful event. My name is Triveni Acharya and I am Chief Employee of Rescue Foundation. 20 years back, my husband, an ex-army man, Mr. Balkrishna Acharya, and myself started a NGO called Rescue Foundation. Rescue Foundation working in red light area. We have an expertise to in brothel counseling, to search a missing child, woman and girls. So that time my husband going in brothel as a customer, and myself is journalist, so daytime I working in journalism, and at night we going for rescue operation. So we rescuing the girl from brothel. They are trafficked from Nepal, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Uzbekistan, and India. So till today we rescued more than 7,000 girls. See, rescuing girls and women from brothels is a big challenge. It's not easy task. In brothel counseling, without the victim concern, we can't rescue them. So they are in brothel. So already counseling brothel manager, brainwashing. My English is not good, so but I try to speak in English. So rescuing the girls from brothel is a big challenge. So many time, threat call, even attack, and my husband died in a road accident. But I consider it's a murder. Anyway, that time I want to thank Mrs. Anuradha Koirala. That time I scared because I have my small son, and I cry and I say I don't want to continue my husband mission because every day we get the threatening calls and attacks. But Anuradha Koirala give me a strength, and she motivate me. This is your husband's child and you have to continue your husband mission. And then I continue. Anyway, we rescuing the girls from brothel every year, 300 girls. We have a shelter home in Maharashtra, 3 shelter home. And new shelter home will be start in December 2017 in Delhi. So we working in all over India, whereas we get the information of missing girls, if we have some clue. So girls missing from Nepal, but she is in Meerut, she is in Agra. If any clue, then we going there. We have a flying squad mobile team. So all over India, we arrange the rescue operation. So it's big story of our work, but we facing problem to rescuing the girl from brothel. Even we facing the problem to repatriate the girl from India to Bangladesh, cross border. So many challenges to getting travel permit from Bangladesh High Commission, Ministry of External Affairs, NOC, from state, court order. So many things. Our big challenge is stateless girl. In my shelter home, more than 50 girls, they are stateless. They are not Bangladeshi, not Indian. They say we are from Bangladesh, but we send the HIR to BNWLA, to Bangladesh government, and they say this is not proper name, this is not proper address. So many challenges, so many problems we face. Sometimes girls also, they are traumatized. And if she not get her hometown address, her parents' contact number, and so they are also, sometimes they become a violent. And every time we share our experience, our challenge with our state, with partner NGO, but so many problems come. So last time, I want to share one experience. It's off the record. One girl staying in our shelter home, 5 years, Bangladeshi girls. We send her name and detail, everything, to all NGO of Bangladesh, to government of Bangladesh, but they say address is not proper. And last time our partner NGO from Bangladesh and we sent the 37 Bangladeshi girl repatriation, and that time we convinced border security force, she's a girl, she not get her address, but she is now desperate. She say, I committed suicide. If you not cross, send me my house. And then they consider, and girls going cross border, and very third day, she success to found her parents. So many things. My English is not good, so if you have any question, I will answer. But every year we repatriate more than 200 Bangladeshi girls. So from 2008, always push back. And our Maharashtra police always say she is from Bangladesh, so passport act, and police say she is not a victim of human trafficking, she is accused. So before 2008, our Maharashtra police also not consider she is a victim of human trafficking, but after that, now our police also sensitized because of the UNODC training to all our police department. Now we have a anti-human trafficking cell. Our law and judiciary also sensitized. So now all girls from Bangladesh, they are victim of human trafficking. Our police now consider. But sometime in village side, sometime in countryside, so police has till today they have no idea. If girl is Bangladeshi, then she is accused. But we going there and so speak with police and so they change their FIR. Otherwise and so many girls are in jail in Mumbai because the passport tampering case. So many Nepali girls also are in jail in Mumbai, Baikala jail. the agent put the wrong age and name, and the immigration department punished her, and so many girls, Nepali girls, Bangladeshi girls, are in jail. And last time we visit the jail also, myself and Salma Ali. So so many problems till today. Yeah. So from 2008 we started the officially cross-border repatriation. So we take the order from court, Bangladesh High Commission, the Ministry of External Affairs, and then we send the girl to the Bangladesh. We escorting them and hand over to NGO. And so now 2008, yeah. But till today we have so many problems, so we not get the girls address. Yeah. So thank you very much.
And to sexual exploitation. And I think there's a need to see this aspect. It may be very small in the kind of things that Sergei explained in the scheme of things, or it may be big, I do not know. That is one kind of NGO. The second kind of NGO, again, a large amount of funding and a very good work in some cases. But as a human rights lawyer, I was appalled because this was my first time I confronted an organization dealing with trafficking, that they have to work with the police. I understand that. But as a human rights lawyer, I also see that the police have committed a lot of atrocities. The police took the girls to the hospital for a two-finger test in this day and age. And then that NGO did nothing. So as a human rights lawyer, I was really angry with what they have been doing. Secondly, our solution, I know that you all know it, but I'm just saying what we've discovered for ourselves, is that I felt that these are, borderline between migrant workers and forced labor, and almost to the verge of being put into prostitution. So we contacted the labor union. But the NGO doesn't want to go to the labor union because they get funds and support from the government. So there was a conflict between human rights, women's rights, labor rights. And it was very difficult to deal with because the traffic, and I'm still not naming him because in a way he's still doing good work, but the campaign turned against us instead of, fighting together. So it became human rights people versus those fighting against trafficking. So these were kinds of experiences which we've been having. And thirdly, I understand the enormous courage with which the women spoke in the morning, because these women, I have known them from 2009 to now, and they are not willing to speak today. And they are not willing to tell me actually what is happening. And I was telling my friend here from Bhutan that this is an overwhelming culture. We all have a culture of silence, but in the Northeast there is an overwhelming self-restraint not to talk. It's bad manners to say you're feeling pain. It's bad manners to even express anything. You smile nicely. You never say that you're miserable. You hide your tears behind a radiant smile. And these girls just do not have the guts to say that in Goa they're sent off by spas to do massages in the open air, in the beaches, massage any number of feet, and this is part of the party. And we also discovered, as I'm sure you all have discovered, this is my first shock, I know people, very so-called very decent people, torture people, but I didn't know decent people, top environments of Goa, was using them, and that girl had been sent to this man, and she just didn't have the words. And it's not only fear. They do not have the words. And as one father who had come to rescue said in his own language, Tankul, and asked my husband, what is prostitution? So we are at a stage in the Northeast, a lot of parts of Northeast, not all of them, where this is just the first generation. And it's another kind of challenge to stop it now, or can we? That is the question. Thank you.
Okay, so we, just before the break, I was giving the floor to Mr. Ravi Kant, President of Shakti Vahini in India. Thank you.
So, thank you. I welcome you all back after tea, and I think that after tea you will be able to listen me more. So, I represent an organization called Shakti Vahini, and we have been working in the field of human trafficking, anti-human trafficking, and we have been involved in rescue, training of law enforcement agencies, and working very closely with the law enforcement agencies across the country in India. We have heard so many speakers before me who have spoken about the problems related to the issue of trafficking in the area, and India being a recipient country, when we talk about SAARC, India is a recipient country and a destination place for victims of human trafficking, and certainly I think that India has to play a big role in terms of victim protection and victim support and all these issues. Over the last many years, I know that we have done a lot of work together. I am sitting beside Romaji and Salmaji. They are all stalwarts who have worked since last 20-25 years, and they were people who raised these issues. But in these 20 years, I have found that the governments have taken interest in the issue of trafficking. India has made a lot of strides in terms of strengthening laws, strengthening infrastructural provisions for victims of human trafficking. There have been several Supreme Court judgments. One of the landmark judgments of Bachpan Bachao Andolan versus Union of India has really brought the issue of trafficking by telling the law enforcement agencies on registrations of FIR on every missing child. So this Supreme Court judgment has now led to a huge amount of data, real-time data on human trafficking, which is now coming as a government records. Earlier there was a lot of denial, but with this Supreme Court judgment in 2013, India now has real-time data on as to what is happening in the field of trafficking in the country. And the numbers are also huge. 1,45,000, 155,000 children and women missing. This is government data. So with this data coming on, the government has been working on these issues. We are on the verge of, thanks to Prajwala, who filed a Supreme Court case in the on a public interest litigation. We are on the verge of having a comprehensive law on human trafficking. Government of India, I and Dr. Nair were both part of that committee, and India is now on the verge of that new law in which we are going to ensure victim protection, witness protection protocols and all these things, which is a huge need for the time. India has also strengthened its child protection systems, and we have now the world's largest integrated child protection schemes. Everywhere districts, we are seeing a lot of government involvement. So the problem is very huge in terms of child trafficking, but last 20 years we have seen a lot of responses of the government. And whatever the government is coming in power, whichever party in India is coming in power, they have been committed to the issue of fighting human trafficking. These are the positive things which we have seen. But we have a lot of work to do in terms of law enforcement responses to human trafficking. We have been involved in training of law enforcement, but I think that the problem with our law enforcement is very huge. They don't have the core competency to deal with issues related to violence against women. Let us be very frank. Our law enforcement agencies in India presently, as they are today, they don't have the core competency to deal with these issues because they don't have the sensitization on that issues. They are not trained when they are introduced into, I'm talking about the lower rank, who are the people who are the first responders. So we need to focus more on strengthening law enforcement responses, witness protection protocols for victims of human trafficking. This is a much required need. Even victims from the SAARC regions like Bangladesh and Nepal, when they are rescued, they are sent to shelter homes. Very good. They are sent back to their respective countries after a period of time. That is also good. But what about the perpetrators of the crime? We don't see this partnerships happening between countries. In terms of rescue numbers, you will see a lot of rescues happening. The numbers in rescue are also high. But when we talk about convictions, the numbers are very less. So that means that if the rescues are in thousands and the convictions are in hundreds or units, I think that many thousand victims of human trafficking have not got justice. Their perpetrators are free and they may be re-trafficked again. So for our entire region in South Asia, one of the way forward now, after all Bangladesh has also done a lot of work, Nepal has also done a huge amount of work, we now need to ensure prosecution of traffickers. And prosecution of traffickers will not happen until and unless the law enforcement agencies who file first information reports and do the case investigation, file the charge sheets, do their work properly. And also, partnership between two police agencies, between two countries. There are many times Bangladeshi girls, Nepalese girls and India has a 90% is domestic trafficking. But still when girls from these or victims from these countries get rescued, some of the traffickers get arrested, they get bail, and then they just come out of the jail. Nothing happens. Nothing happens to the trafficker in the domestic country. And that partnership is not happening. So we want, as civil society, I think that India has now also ratified the Palermo Protocol. We have also in the South Asia region, the SAARC Protocol on trafficking, all ratified, all done, but the partnerships have to be taken forward. So one of the key recommendations I would like is that law enforcement agencies and government need to interact with more and to ensure that protection to victims. Even I, as an Indian citizen, I would like to tell you that if victims are trafficked here from India and Nepal, Bangladesh and Nepal, they also should get the victim compensation. If no country is accepting them, then Indian government should provide them the citizenship. They should not be stateless. And these are the issues, I think, which we are going to fight it out in the coming next 5 years. Stateless, which Triveni ji had raised the issue. They should not be stateless. The government should come forward. And I know that these are very sticky issues, but it is a violation of our fundamental rights. It is a violation of our constitutional rights. So the government has to give that commitment, and we have to work on these issues forward. Thank you so much.
To address demand, both for labor but also for prostitution. So that's also a key article that many of us forget. So thank you so much, Mr. Khan. So now we have the pleasure to hear Roma Diba, founder and president of Stop NGO in India.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Apne Aap, Ruchira and her team to call us here. And I'm very happy that my previous speakers, they have really said everything about trafficking, redressal of trafficked victims, and perpetrators' punishment. They have said everything. I am here only to say that for the last 25 to 30 years, we are working in the field of anti-trafficking movement. All the partners are here. We are working with all of them. But I really don't care that how many thousands and millions people are trafficked. I want to know that how many people are rescued and what about after that, what we are doing. They were just thrown away like hot potato. because they were trafficked, once trafficked. Some of them are really sick. Some of them are, they have lost their all desire to live up. This is the kind of life we don't really want for them. And whatever Ravi says, I also agree that once we started our work, then government was in a denial stage, and they used to say, no, Bangladesh is trafficking girls to us. From Nepal, there are several people are coming, not we. But now, this is the response of government. Yes, we are as a transit point, destination, and sometimes we are the sending country also. This is a big achievement that I was a part of Global March Against Child Labor with Kailash. And I was the only member from the trafficking, human trafficking side, and 120 children were with me. Professionally, I am a university teacher. I had to take 6 months leave from my university to be with them. And now, that's why that gave me the idea that they are not objects. The people, those who are trafficked, they have got their life to live. They exactly know that what they want to do right now. It's not that she must be sewing and stitching, and because I'm nobody to preach for them. And how many blouses you can stitch for your livelihood? So in the name of rehabilitation process, it's a really, we are bluffing them. So we want the people should be doing something so that they live a life with dignity and they can live independently. We started our organization, Stop Trafficking Operation of Children and Women. It was the first of this kind in this whole country who were only going for rescue operations and doing the rescue, and thousands of people we have rescued for the last 25 to 30 years. Within the country, across the border. But the problem was, I was asked by one of my, I was out of country and somebody asked me, what after the rescue? Now, I really can tell you what after rescue. We know what is going on in the brothels, in the different difficult situations. We know the torturous life. We know that how they are suffering. But from that point to now this point that I am a person, I am not a traffic survivor only. I am a person who can stand up and who really can say that I am a person, I am a citizen of any country in India. And Ravi pointed out one very good question, and he said that Indian government has really tried to do a lot of things. We have got excellent rules and laws, but implementation is not only the government's stake. Who is government? You are the government, I am the government. And I want to put this question here, that if it's a part of government's job, government should do it, but what about us, the civil society people? If we are sincere, and if we are getting lump sum money from abroad and from what we are doing, why the number of trafficking is raising every day? We have to ask ourselves. So if we are honest, we are sincere, we really can do something. The next point is, he said that there should not be any stateless person. What Triveni raised the question. Being a civil society person, I have got the key. Who knows that she is from Bangladesh? I don't know. She doesn't have any passport. So why I have to say that she is from Bangladesh? I don't know. She is from Bangladesh or from Nepal. She doesn't have any passport. She is a person. She is a girl or a boy or a woman exploited in my country. It's my responsibility. So now, whatever STOP is doing started as a rescue operation-based organization. It's a whole circle. We rescued them, take them to the police for the first-hand information report, then taking to medical support for their legal redress, for compensation and all, then going for their rehabilitation. Is a tall word. It's a very big word. And we often use this word mindlessly. This is for 3 minutes is much time. I'll finish it within 1 minute. Thank you very much. So now we will be working. We have to work for their to lead them a life of dignity, to be on their own. Some of them get married, some of them, re-trafficking cases are, it's a long list. Why? There is no alternative livelihood option. Why they'll be only working as a housemaids? क्यों ऐसे life जीना है? So I have to be the housemaid and your child will be the barrister and judge and magistrate. Why? They have got the same right for education. Being an educationist for last 44 years in university, I strongly advocate for their meaningful and standardized education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roma, for your vision and compassion for trafficking victims and survivors. So now it's a pleasure to introduce Emarine Karbi, consultant at Impulse NGO Network, India.
Good afternoon, everyone. As she said, my name is Emarine Karbi. I'm actually here speaking on behalf of Impulse NGO Network. Impulse NGO Network is a 25 years old organization based in Shillong, that is in Northeast India. It has been working towards addressing human trafficking for the past 25 years in Northeast India and also with its porous, with cross-border countries like Nepal, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. Over the years, we have dealt with 72,000 approximately cases of human trafficking in Northeast India. That is cases that comes from the poorest, the neighboring countries like Nepal, Bangladesh, and Myanmar, and also children or women being trafficked from the Northeast to other states in India. So basically, we have 72,000 cases that has been registered with us, and they are inclusive of sexual exploitation, bonded, and child labor. We have faced many challenges while dealing with various cases, which has led to an innovation called the Impulse model. For the past 25 years, our boss, my boss, Ms. Hasina Karbi, has been dealing with so many cases, and she's faced challenges, isolation from the government, hostility from other public and private sectors when it comes to addressing these cases or helping human trafficking survivors, giving them assistance, rehabilitation, or any sort of recompensation. So she innovated something called Impulse model. What Impulse model does is that we partner, our main strategy is to partner with various stakeholders, both from public and private sectors, that have specific mandate or from whom we can retrieve assistance that can be given to human trafficking survivors. Under the Impulse model, we work as per the 6 P's and the 6 R's. In 6 P's, we have prevention, partnership, policing, press, and prosecution. So according to these P's, we see which stakeholder fit into these P's, and that is how we retrieve assistance from them. So basically, impulse model create a linkage between this a human trafficking case or a human trafficking survivor, and also these stakeholders who can provide this assistance. For example, police. In policing, what we basically do is give them training, sensitize them on how you basically respond to the case, or how you are sensitive towards a human trafficking survivor, and you don't just see the survivor as an illegal migrant, coming from the other country. And we also train them on how to do sensitive reporting, and also try and support human trafficking survivors more. We also partner, under the partnership, we partner with stakeholders. We have so many partners here who Ms. Hasina, Impulse NGO Network, has worked with over the years. Mr. Ravikant, Ms. Roma, Ms. Salma, Mr. Nair, and Ms. Anuradha, where we have worked with so many cases of human trafficking. Let me just give you one example of how Impulse model works. I don't know how many of you have heard about the rat hole minings in Meghalaya. So in these rat hole minings, what happened is only children are being employed to extract coals. So basically, adult, normal body cannot enter these holes to extract coals. So they employ children to extract these coals, and this is happening in Meghalaya. And these children are actually being illegally migrated from Nepal and Bangladesh. So what we have estimated is that there are a lot of children in these areas, but we cannot go into these areas because they have private land holding. So our Constitution of India also has the 6th schedule, where under the 6th schedule in Meghalaya, we are entitled to have these properties, and landmine owners can actually employ anybody, and they can dig out coal as much as they can, and they are not answerable or accountable to anybody. So we have done a research of 7 years before we filed a public interest litigation in the court and in the National Green Tribunal, where we have with the help of press, under the Impulse model, we have employed press. With the help of press, we have created so much evidences with documentaries, stories on these children who are there in these rat hole mining areas. And this has become like an evidence. This evidence was actually taken to the court, where we have filed the public interest litigation to ban these coal minings in Meghalaya. So it has been banned 2 years ago. And now they are actually, the National Green Tribunal has been asking the government, the state government, who were in denial that these children were actually employed in these areas, they have been asked to come up with a scientific way of mining in these coal mine areas. So there are many more challenges as a civil society organization in the Northeast we face. Firstly is isolation. I don't know how many of you all know Northeast is it has been isolated from the rest of India. We have been looked at differently, and I don't know why, but we also have been looked at as a special region. So we do have a lot of isolation from so many stakeholders, public, private, and therefore we realize as an organization that we really need to create more partnership, and reach out to so many stakeholders that are out there who can give us those help or create those linkages where we can actually address human trafficking. So under the Impulse model, we also realized that the scenario of human trafficking has been changed. Nowadays, human trafficking does not only happen in the brothels, it also happens on technology. You just give a call, and then there are girls who, you can find girls being trafficked in guest house, hotels. So you never really know where can you rescue these women and children from. So we have come with, integrated the Impulse model as Impulse Case Info Center software. What Impulse Case Info Center software does is incorporate the whole 6 P's and the 6 R's, the partnership, prevention, policing, and press, and we link it to all our partners. We have all our partners here. Most of them are actually will be using the Impulse Case Info Center software, where we communicate with each other and talk about these cases. For example, I get a case in Meghalaya saying that there is a child, there is a girl being trafficked in Nepal, let's say. So what I do is I will contact somebody who we have partnered with over the years. Basically, we contact Maiti Nepal. Like just for the cases where we rescued around 100 children from the coal mine areas, most of them, we wanted to send them back to school because they wanted to go and They wanted to go and study. So we contacted Maiti Nepal, then through the Impulse model, where Maiti Nepal helped us getting them boarding school in Nepal, and they could go back. We contacted, then under that same Impulse case info center, we also give the same case to somebody who can provide rehabilitation, who can provide psychological help, who can provide contact the law enforcement agency to actually provide prosecution to the case. That is what basically in short Impulse case info center software does. The other challenge of human trafficking is also there is a huge deal of unemployment in many rural areas where people are in denial of that human trafficking happens. Basically, women and children need a lot of employment, which they don't get in the rural areas. And this has become an easy layer for human traffickers to make them as prey and, promise them with good jobs. So what we basically should also be looking at is creation of livelihood opportunities that can be given to them in their own doorstep. For example, in Northeast India, women are very highly skilled in weaving. So we should create something where women can weave something inside their home, and we can actually sell those products in the global market, something like that. That's about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Emarine. And we have a final speaker. So I don't have your affiliation anymore, sir, but we are now hearing from Mr. Kashif Hamim from Pakistan.
First of all, I congratulate CAP network member organizations and APNA for organizing such a magnificent event. And as well, I'm also thankful inviting me from Pakistan to present a case study on one of the largest prostitute community in Pakistan. It's in Old Lahore and known as the Shahi Mohalla community. So I'm going to present something about integrated socio-economic development options for prostitutes in Pakistan, case study of Shahi Mohalla. This presentation is mainly giving some insight on prevailing socio-economic conditions of prostitutes living there and as well in other parts of the country. And one important thing that in that presentation we are going to share some key findings of our long-term research work and community-based socio-economic development interventions. And at the end, we are presenting a broader program outline on viable and realistic integrated socio-economic development options for prostitutes in Pakistan. Let me give you some brief background on the research study. It's a very long-term research study. The duration of study is from 1997 to 2017. It's a longitudinal research study which has mainly documented the socio-cultural changes happened in the Shahi Mohalla, and we have observed that how shifting moral standards and values in Pakistani society resulted in the transformation of Shahi Mohalla from a cultural repository to a market of flesh trade. Similarly, we have documented the declivity of Taif culture and even its virtual extinction. So one of the most important research themes was to analyze socio-economic conditions of various stratified groups within prostitute community of Shahi Mohalla over a longer period of time. So that research work able to generate some time series data as well. So that research work is expected to be published in the later part of this year. So during the research process, we have also identified some socio-economic development interventions in participation with the local community, and they also participated in its implementation. So those development interventions contributed in testifying and verifying the scope of viable socio-economic development options for prostitute communities of Pakistan. Before coming to the case study Shahi Mohalla, I'm just briefly going to discuss the commonly faced problems by prostitutes all over the world, we can easily see that prostitution is found to exist in one form or other in almost all human societies. And there are 100 million women and children who are absorbed into that system that can range from street prostitution to ordinary establishment in prison like brothels, sex entertainments, and tourist venues. And almost in every case, prostitutes experience oppressive and exploitative conditions, police harassment, client brutality, social stigma, and lack of social services and legal assistance. They are also facing sexual, physical violence, health risks like STD, PTSD, potential epidemic of AIDS, absence of basic civil rights. And those countries which legalized and regulated prostitution, they even could not able to effectively address their multifarious issues. And large number of girls are still entering into regulated sex industry as well. So we can say that legitimating prostitution has mostly benefited the pimps and the brokers. So all such problems which we have just discussed at the global scale, more or less these are faced by prostitutes in Pakistan as well. But their problems are even more diverse and complicated because they also have to face certain Islamic legislations which strictly prohibit prostitution activities. Various types of prostitution activities are in function in almost every province, district, and urban-rural settlements of Pakistan, ranging from traditional tawaif to brothel women, call girls to street walkers, and even woman trafficking and sale or purchase of women. These are also quite evident in various parts of the country, especially in the semi-tribal areas of South Punjab, which are bordering with Balochistan province, and as well, woman trafficking is also visible in urban and rural settlements in Sindh and NWFE province. Prostitutes are simply ignored, marginalized, and sidelined in the Pakistani society, and that social exclusion renders such Pakistani prostitutes more vulnerable to sexual and other type of exploitations. We have no public policy, strategies, or legislations to specifically deal with prostitutes' migration issues, multiple socioeconomic problems. So that's a map of Lahore, in which you can see the cultural heritage locations. So one big mark is the walled city. It's the old part of Lahore, and it is recognized as one of the cultural heritage site. So in that slide, you can see I have demarcated the Shahi Mohalla community area, which mainly comprises of 22 localities. So that's giving its location. If we see Shahi Mohalla's overview, that it's located in the historic city of Lahore and containing one of the oldest and largest prostitute community of Pakistan. The urban form of that Shahi Mohalla mostly consists of 4 to 5 story buildings with narrow spine street patterns, small urban spaces, and highly dense population. Overall population of that Shahi Mohalla area is around 125,000 to 150,000, and with varying groups, age groups, and income background. As per our estimations, there are more than 7,000 prostitutes, 1,200 families, which are residing in the 22 localities within that Shahi Mohalla. So what we have observed that since partition, a significant socio-cultural transition had took place in that area. So a large number of traditional artist families which are engaged in singing and dancing activities, they had dispersed into other parts of the Lahore city, and the prostitute families from other urban and rural areas of Punjab, they have migrated in. Okay. So it's from holistic point of view, we also have studied that there are some other population groups within the Shahi Mohalla community which are strongly interlinked with the local community. Such groups include traditional musicians, their family servants, and at the same time, a considerable portion of homeless beggars, drug-addicted people, abnormal people are also living in that area. And at the same time, people belonging from socially accepted professions, they are also living in that area. So that's another demarcation, boundary map demarcation of Shahi Mohalla. We can see that that locality is just located beside the Lahore Fort and Badshai Mosque, and even some areas are also extended towards the outside the walled city, which you can see on the left side. These are some images of Shahi Mohalla. One is Nogaza Chowk, Bazaar, Shekhupuriya. These are different localities. Then recently, Government of Punjab has converted one of its area into Food Street. That's the Fort Road area and Roshanai Gate area. So in relation to our long-term research, now I'm going to share the socio-economic conditions of prostitutes who are living in Shahi Mohalla. It's important to tell that most of such prostitutes are living in joint family system, and they are not just responsible for their own livelihood, but as well they also meet the economic needs of their relatives as well and their families. They are pushed into prostitution work due to family needs and the decision of elders. So it is important to note that prostitution phenomena in Shahi Mohalla that exists in the form of joint family structure. And we can broadly classify prostitution in Shahi Mohalla into three major groups, which include traditional Tawaif artist families, then immigrant prostitute families, and prostitutes working in the brothels. One by one, I will just share some findings about these three stratified groups. So these traditional artist families, they actually carry a cultural heritage. They are living there since the Sikh period, when in the regime of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, and they are the most influential and dominant. And a significant portion of such families actually mainly migrated from Indian cities such as Delhi, Lucknow, Amritsar, Bathinda. So these artist girls, dancing and singing girls from these artist families, they also constitute a major source of producing artists for local entertainment industries such as TV, film, and stage. So right from the childhood, girls belonging to these families, they exclusively take dance and singing trainings for a longer period of time. And then they offer dance and singing services to the visiting customers. They also make selected sexual relationship with high and middle income customers and prefer to hold such relationship for longer period of time. So brought up by prostitute is identified one major cause for artist family prostitutes to enter into this profession. The second category, immigrant prostitutes. During early 80s, when we have the introduction of Hudud Ordinance and Islamic legislations, many red light areas all across the intermediate and small town of Pakistan, they were closed down, and a large number of prostitutes from those cities shifted to Shahi Mohalla. So these can be categorized as immigrant prostitutes. So such immigrant families, they mainly belong to central Punjab cities and as well some cities in the Sindh province. These immigrant prostitutes are not such professionally trained as artist family, and they are mostly providing sexual services to middle and low income level customers. And their activities are more in resemblance with the brothel prostitutes. And in relation to frequency of customers, it is relatively less as compared to high frequency of visiting low income customers among the brothel prostitutes. So this is the most vulnerable group within the prostitute community of Shahi Mohalla. These are such girls and women who are working in the brothels, and they belong to a very poor family, fully exploited by the brothel owners, police, visiting customers. And even in such brothels, we have witnessed a large number of trafficked women as well, which are coming from Central Asian states, from Afghanistan, even from Bangladesh and Burma as well. Overall, at national level, that numbers runs into 100,000 women who are trafficked from all these countries. And even interestingly, we have documented that a significant number of brothel prostitutes are coming from daily wage laborer communities when their husband or they do not find regular work, so they are forced to enter and to come to brothels and earn some money. So what we have identified that poverty is one major cause for immigrant and brothel prostitutes to join this profession. In relation to types of customers and business activities, all just 2-3 minutes. All stratified prostitute categories provide both in-house and mobile sexual services, and there is a wide range of customers from industrialists, politicians, traders, small businessmen, and that frequency of customers that gradually increases from artists to immigrants and then to brothel prostitutes. And their business activities are connected, well connected in and outside the country, and they are also invited in marriages, local festivals in rural and urban areas, and even their activities extended beyond the country. In relation to education and health facilities, they are far below as compared to the needs and demand, and they are vulnerable to health diseases. Even we have the finding that more than 2/3 visiting customers are not using any contraceptive measures. Education level is quite below normal, and immigrant and brothel prostitutes, they are illiterate in most cases. And at the same time, the children belonging to immigrant and brothel prostitutes, they are the worst sufferers because they cannot join the school or they leave the school after a couple of years. In relation to legal issues, police harassment is quite normal practice, and local prostitutes regularly give bribes to local police staff. And as per our finding, more than 60% prostitute families are facing one or another kind of legal issues and cases. So it also costs a lot of expenditures to them. And the type of cases include hadood cases, alcohol, drug, theft, dacoity, involvement with criminals, quarrels, disputes, illegal immigration, runaway, abduction. So brothels and immigrant prostitutes are more vulnerable to police harassment and exploitation. And at the same time, we also witness that human rights abuses against trafficked women is also there. I will just take 2 minutes because that portion is important.
Okay, it's just not fair.
Yes, I'm just going to finish it.
So we don't get to listen to Pakistanis very often.
Okay.
We are only once in 2 months.
Yes. So now I'm coming towards the development and rehabilitation interventions we have undertaken in that community over the last 20 years. So one important thing which I would like to share that there's socioeconomic development needs and rehabilitation needs. These are ignored by our public institutions and civil society. Although a number of NGOs implemented some short-term projects on AIDS awareness, drugs prevention, but as such, we do not find any specific, socioeconomic development or rehabilitation project in that area. So we have I facilitated that community in the formulation of first ever community-based organization in Shai Mohalla, and that organization was inaugurated in a community function back in 1997. So over the last 20 years, we have undertook a variety of advocacy and welfare activities on self-help basis. And we have also implemented 3 development projects on women vocational education, cultural heritage, and children education. In relation to interventions, vocational center and classical projects were actually implemented in partnership with an donor agency based in Paris, France Liberties, and the non-formal centers were established in partnership with UNESCO. We also organized charity shows from time to time and raised funds for the implementation of welfare activities, such as distribution of food, providing education scholarships, providing legal supports to prostitutes and trafficked women, and giving financial supports for the marriages and rehabilitation. In the context of Islamic society, we have also considered the option of organizing marriages of those girls who wanted to leave the profession or who do not intend to enter into the profession. So those projects were mainly implemented in 2006 to 8. These are some of the slides. So in the inaugural function, many of you know Ustad Salamat Ali Khan. He's a famous classical singer from Pakistan. So that was his last performance in that inaugural function. Then a famous tablan was Ustad Tafu, who also performed there. That's the slide of our charity show, where Ustad Ghulam Shagan performed and other renowned artists also performed. So briefly about the projects. That Women Vocational Center mainly established from a rehabilitation point of view, where we provided specialized skill enhancement trainings in sewing, embroidery, food processing, and then created alternative employment opportunities for the vulnerable women. So overall, 122 girls, women from the targeted groups benefited, and they either to achieve employment in local industry or started working as home-based women workers. So what we believe that the outcome of that vocational center project that testified the argument that enhancement of vocational skills is one potential rehabilitation option for the low-income prostitutes and young-age girls vulnerable to enter into prostitution work. So these are some of the slides of that vocational center project, where those different age women are learning different skills. And then in relation to, as earlier I told about that, that area has also importance from cultural heritage point of view. So we initiated a project of establishing classical music and dance academy. So that project contributed in strengthening the cultural heritage activities there. And as well, we also promoted dancing and singing as alternative income generation opportunity. So overall 94 students took education in dance, music and instrument. And we also organized 4 classical music and dance events on monthly basis. These are few of the slides of that project. Then we established non-formal centers where 120 students benefited. So last, just couple of slides left. So based on all these experiences, that foundation through a consultative process has formulated an integrated socio-economic development program. So the component of that program include health counseling center, community level high school, women vocational center, legal aid center, a classical music and dance academy, and as well undertaking national level research and advocacy activities. We believe that through our demonstrative projects and national level research and advocacy activities, we can engage public institutions and civil society for introducing such policies and legislations which can decriminalize prostitutes in Pakistan and can increase their access to attain basic development rights and rehabilitation opportunities. So currently we are seeking program implementation resources from multilateral sources such as a government agency, World City Development Authority, Punjab Education, Health, Women Development Ministries, civil society and donor agencies. And at the same time, we are also raising resources on self-help basis. And we are going to produce a folk music CD, and then later we are going to organize charity shows. So just to sum up, that based on all these development and rehabilitation interventions in Shahi Mohalla and on that program, we feel that what should be the philosophical base of that socio-economic development program? We think that it is, we do not going to advocate for the complete elimination or legalization of prostitution, because it is impossible to eliminate that ever-functioning phenomena which prevail in every society, and or to develop a clash with the local religious elements. So we are aiming to develop and promote such interventions which are socially and culturally sensitive and acceptable to the norms and values of society. So there is a desire to establish a common platform of prostitute communities in Pakistan, from where existing human rights issues and socio-economic development problems of prostitute communities could be addressed in an integrated and holistic manner. So Just there is also need to emphasize. We also need to emphasize on the importance and urgency of national, provincial, local level actions for addressing the development and rehabilitation needs of prostitute communities. So we believe that implementation of that program in one of the largest area can transform it into a demonstrative area for rest of the hundreds of prostitute communities in Pakistan, and it can be replicated. So in the conclusion, I would just like to say that subculture prostitute communities in Pakistan require urgent attention, and there is an urgent need to review the existing national policy and legislative framework, and there is also an urgent need to advocate and promote such policies which accelerate their future development process. Thank you.
So we do want to have time for some Q&A, audience participation, but first I'd like to give the floor to our discussant, who will spend 3 to 4 minutes just highlighting the conversation. Thank you.
You can stop me when the time is up. I will certainly not exceed the time. Thank you. We will focus on the SAARC regional issues. Issue of demand. The morning session was focusing on the issue of demand, not vulnerability. The issue of demand is the most important thing. Ruchira Gupta and we were working on the issue of demand in 2005, and that's an area where we should focus on. To place, before we place SAARC in the context, a few terminology issues. I don't believe the word prostitute. It's the world's largest oppression. Please don't stop using the word prostitute. For me, from the human rights perspective, the woman is a woman of sexual exploitation. It is a victim of commercial sexual exploitation, full stop. Nothing called a child prostitute. I prostitute a child and call the child a prostitute. Who the hell am I to call a child a prostitute? Child is a child, never a prostitute. And I call myself a customer. How dare I call me a customer? I am the owner violator, I am the perpetrator, I am the criminal, and you call me a customer. Don't call me a customer. Well, demand. Let's stop demand. Let us address demand. That's the only way to contain prostitution and trafficking and sexual exploitation. Vulnerability is a very important factor. We keep on talking about vulnerability. Stop demand. All of us should fight demand. Let's stop with that. I go to colleges and tell the children, can we stop watching child pornography? Take a decision, stand up and say. I tell you, children, do that. Wonderful source, children. We have anti-human trafficking clubs in the colleges. I started something new. I tell you, watch the children. Yeah, IIT Delhi here, go there. Vibrant children, they are all going to industrialize tomorrow. Anti-human trafficking club in the IIT Delhi here. And they take a decision. If my sister cannot be violated, if my mother cannot be violated, I cannot violate somebody else's sister and mother. That's the message. Nothing more, no rocket science. Nothing rocket science, very humble, simple message. Ladies and gentlemen, new dimensions. Pornography is one. We talk about pornography. This book also speaks about India has become the third largest user of internet pornography in the world last 10 years. Nothing strange about that, it's a fact. Child soldiers. I don't know, we have not discussed about child soldiers. I can go on. She said 3 minutes, so I have to stop in 3 minutes. I'm putting the fastest gear possible. Child soldiers. I tell you, you don't know that I mentioned child soldier in Nepal, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, all these places. Pardon, sir? There you are. I'm speaking from the SAARC context. I've been a law enforcement official, a police officer for 35 years. I know what it is. I've never had to use third degree or torture for any matter for that matter. Escort services, tourism promotion, marriages, surrogacy, trafficking for surrogacy. Surrogacy, I don't know if you come up with that. Yes, we have instances. I'll give you case studies and case studies after that. We are doing an all-India research on human trafficking. We did one for the National Human Rights Commission 2002, published book by the Orion Longman. Now we are doing one more for the National Human Rights Commission. We means Tata Institute of Social Sciences. They established a university in 1936. I'm working there as a chair professor after my retirement from the government service. And we are doing an all-India research. Anybody wanting to join this mission, most welcome. My email is there in the address. Please be in touch. Laws are in place, SOPs are in place, MOUs are in place, but enforcement is weak. As Madam Roma said, we should own up. NGOs should take the responsibility, but government also should own up. We need to make the governments function. We need to give the UN, all of us have to function. We have interesting examples of research leading into action. We have examples of UNODC stepped in, two-year project on anti-human trafficking. Just see the change there. You know, somebody asked me, how do you change the police? I said, first of all, make the police weep. First of all, make the police cry. Sensitize him. Tell him, this is your sister. Can you do it? Make him change. After change, don't leave him like that. Enforce him. Train him professionally. Make a professional training. In 3 days' time, we have seen how transformation can be done and how they have delivered. A place like Andhra Pradesh, Telangana today, 2005, no trafficker arrested. Today, 100 traffickers convicted. Andhra Pradesh, in 2005, no place of exploitation closed down under the law of 1956. Today, 140 places of exploitation closed down. 2005 on Telangana, all victims were arrested as prostitutes. Today, no victim being arrested as prostitutes. How do you make the change? Law same, prosecutor same, police same. That's what we should do. That's the message. And if we can do an enforcement process in a magnificent way, in a consolidated way, in a comprehensive way, you can make the difference. This is what we should do in Bangladesh, what we should do in India, in Pakistan, in Sri Lanka, in Maldives, in in Bhutan, in Myanmar also. Well, no technology. Technology is a very important point. As regards SAARC issues, well, Indian context, one more important thing is the judiciary has come in a large way. You know, wherever the governments have failed, judiciary has stepped in, maybe through PIL, not always by PIL, court on its own motion versus Union of India. Can we hear that? Judicial court on its own motion versus Union of India. Delhi had magnificent change in 2002. You salute the judges. Here is another judge sitting here from Bihar. He had made a wonderful judgment. You know, we have so many high courts and so many Supreme Court decisions which made a tremendous change in India. Ladies and gentlemen, the issues today in SAARC are home verification report dating delayed. A child rescued here from Bangladesh, magistrate will not allow the child to go back till a home verification report comes in. Who will give the home verification report? NGOs are ready to give the report, but courts are not accepting. Governments have to function. So we need to have a synergization of the government with the NGO to get the home verification report on time. Number two, the statelessness of children was mentioned. I don't want to speak on that since Madam Triveni has very eloquently spoken on that. No transit permit is given to the children of the people who have been exploited. Mother is being pushed back, sent back. Pushback has stopped now, seeing sent back. Child is not being given because they say the child's father is an Indian. That father is anonymous. He doesn't know. You know that it's an unknown paternity. And now, how can the child suffer? So many children here languishing in homes. What home? They are all actually places of incarceration. We need to take that as a priority issue. Technology integration is very important. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 110,000 children reported missing in India every year. 110,000 means what? 110,000 children reported missing, unreported God knows, of which 40,000 children do not come back. Now we started a project here under the plan, a missing child project. Bangladesh started, Pakistan started, but there was no integration. The SAARC should come together and integrate all the technology in these three countries. Bangladeshi children missing there are in Pune and Bombay. There is no method of merging them. There is no method of comparing them. We need to get that technology platform in motion. Transfer evidence for court matters very important. We started video conferencing with Nepal, with Bangladesh, but on an ad hoc basis. That has to be institutionalized. There shall be a judicial order or a government protocol that all trafficking crimes, the victim need not be called back from Nepal or Bangladesh. Let the government bring out with a resolution. Interestingly, the new law which has been drafted has this provision. I only hope the government brings the legislation fast. Ladies and gentlemen, next point is about the task force. You know, task force cannot function with the 2-3 bureaucrats there. They are all good people. I have also been a government official. Very good people, full stop, good. But we need to deliver. So we need to have expertise. We need to have the NGO expertise. There are so many in this room and so many across the country. You know, thousands of NGOs working day in and out. Commendable work in the country and the region. I've been to all these countries in the region so I can know. And we need to get them on board. And of course, lastly, we need to have experts also. There are many experts who are completely neutral, not part of government, not part of NGO. We need to have them on board. I think a combination of a government officials, combination of NGO partners, and combination of experts. Maybe UNODC has to take the initiative to get them together and take it forward. We are doing an all India research I mentioned, and we are setting up a center of excellence on anti-human trafficking in the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. You are most welcome to join. A center of excellence in the region. It will be a repository of all the information, repository of all the research, guiding work, guiding action, etc., etc. We will do micro research. All of you are part of the thing, and please be assured of all cooperation from my side. I want you to join this center of excellence in Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Last part is the capacity building of stakeholders has to be done in a comprehensive manner. I gave the example of Telangana. I would request my friend, UNODC, my colleague, I was privileged to work for that office. You can make a difference, sir. You will get a lot of money from the people sitting here or from the international agencies. Take on this as a mission, a comprehensive capacity building program for the entire law enforcement agencies and the stakeholders in the entire region. You will be doing a magnificent change in maybe 3 years' time or 5 years' time. This could be one of the agenda for you. Lastly, focus on adolescents. I mentioned about the AIC club in the youth, in the colleges. Go back and work with the adolescents, and I will see the magnetic difference which you can do with them. Maybe Apne Aap and CAP, to organize this, along with TIS, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, we can work out a victim witness protocol for SAARC. It is not there. A victim witness protocol for SAARC. Let the government not take ownership now. Let's start off. Let's prepare one and put it on the government. They may adopt in due course. Maybe I am sure governments will have to come in to adopt, but we can start off a victim witness protocol for the entire region and put it on a website and spread over. We can practice. Nothing wrong in practicing in that. We can go beyond the law and practice. So that victim witness protocol can be taken up as one of the agenda for action for us. Lastly, a national workshop of the civil services agencies. I've been seeing in India, maybe for the last 10 years, no national workshop has taken place. Meetings like this have taken place where a selected, embodied, capable, and empowered NGOs come in. There are so many NGOs across the country who don't know what to do. They know the issues, they are doing something, but they need to have voice and power. An NGO like Apne Aap can take the initiative, can support, any corporates can come in. We can think of a national level leadership program for the civil society organizations along with the police officials of the country in a national level. Similarly, one in Bangladesh, one in Pakistan, one in Myanmar, one in Bhutan, and eventually we can bring a SAARC together. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let's open it for question and answer. Yes, sir. And please keep your questions short so that we can spread the wealth.
Threshold of any more discussion, but I'm really worried, okay? And I want to say this, and I want to probably confess right now that my name is Dipesh Tank, and I am from a non-profit called Rescue Foundation. Yesterday's discussion about that prostitution is girls get into prostitution because they don't have a choice. It has kind of opened my mind because every time when we go on raids in Mumbai or any other part of the country, often we get questioned by police saying that it's nice what you guys are doing, but we need to have such red light areas and proper business. To an extent, I was one of those people who probably thought, yes, it is true. How does a man get to, express his sexual desire otherwise? So yes, I'm sorry, but I feel today's discussion made me feel that this is not needed, okay? And my question is open to all the panelists. What do you think about that? Is one. Secondly, how can we stop this? Because we often get questioned, and this
where do the women go?
Yes.
Okay, so who wants to answer? And
do you think that legalizing prostitution is, because a lot of people are fighting for that also. So my question is that, how fair is that?
Legalizing prostitution means legalizing trafficking.
Yes.
If your sister cannot be violated, how can you violate somebody else's sister? Full stop. No question.
sorry, excuse me, I'm getting. Okay, apparently Tinku's telling me that we actually only have 5 minutes. We have to vacate the room. So s'il vous plaît.
I am on the Sales Foundation, and it's one of the two NGO who create camp. And we are being an international observatory in prostitution. A few things. 13 90 is the percentage of vulnerable people who are in prostitution of all women and men. It's 90%. 99% it's the number of the client of prostitution of women and men. It's 99%. So, as member of CAP, I think the main thing we have to do actually is to convince our the people in our country, the parliamentary, the policy, the judge, and all these people that prostitution is a violence. It's very important because the traffickers, they say, no, it's not a violence. It's good for men and it's good for women. So we have to fight against this argumentation. And the main way to fight this argumentation is with the survivor. It's necessary that in each of our countries we give the speech to survivors.
Okay.
We have to make teams of survivors in different countries because then we can tell that prostitution is a violence. The only I want to say, if we want to change the law, if we want to change the mentality of the police and the church in every country, one NGO cannot do it in this country. We have to federate to do this by the most of NGOs possible in each country. It's what we are doing in France. It's like this that we have the law. And after you have the law, it's not finished.
Okay, thank you so much. I thought you had a question, so yeah, it was a statement, but so we still have tomorrow, and you can go outside and speak to these wonderful all discussants, really. So thank you each for your leadership and for your work, and thank you very much.
There is one film which Assam Rural Development Center has brought, so we will try to fit it.
See, good.
So we are sorry that because of the paucity of time, we could not take many of the questions, and there is a very short film made by Assam Rural Development Center, which we will try to show tomorrow. Sorry, we have to vacate this place because it's booked back to back. So we have to, we are apologizing to everyone.